Welcome to San Joaquin Spotlight, a public affairs program featuring conversations about life in the central San Joaquin Valley. This program is brought to you in partnership between KFSR 90.7 FM and CMAC Fresno. I'm your host, Sevag Tateosian, and as I sit here today, I'm smelling some delicious peaches. Our guest this week is Jeff Simonian with Simonian Fruit Company. Did I get that right, Jeff?
Correct.
Simonian Fruit Company, or is there Simcoe as well somewhere in there?
Simcoe is our brand.
So, welcome to the studio, first of all.
Thank you for having me.
You've brought with you these delicious-looking peaches, and they smell wonderful. So, this must be one of the products available at Simonian Fruit Company.
Yeah, these are July Flame yellow nectarines, and right now it's kind of the peak of the harvest, so it's keeping us busy.
The reason why I invited you on the program is because we've heard a lot about the drought, and I'm sure you're in the industry, you know about the drought. But talk about what your company is, first of all.
Well, Simonian Fruit Company, well, first of all, we're a family company, and we're very proud of that. So we're a grower, packer, shipper of stone fruit, which consists of peaches, plums, nectarines, and apricots. We have grapes, we have wine grapes, we have table grapes and raisins, and also pomegranates. And so we have a commercial packing house. We pack them, and then we market them, and then we ship them all over the world.
You mentioned pomegranates, and for years that was the quote-unquote sexy product out there. Has that shifted? Because now I'm reading about almonds coming in the mix. What do you think?
Well, it has a little bit, yeah. There's not as much buzz to it as there was, say, 10 years ago. But it's still a growing industry. And, pomegranates is a fruit that really many people don't know about. I mean, especially in the Midwest and the East Coast. There's been studies that have done that say only 20% of the people have ever tried a pomegranate. So There's still a lot of growth to be had in the industry, and we're trying to help that.
Talk about the health benefits of pomegranates, because, a lot of people will say pomegranates are healthy, they're good for you, a lot of vitamins. You know about this. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's been all kinds of studies that have done. I mean, millions of dollars of research have been put into it about the effects on heart disease. They said it's helped reduce cancer, blood pressure. I mean, all kinds of stuff that has been said about that pomegranates can do. And it's just a great piece of fruit. It definitely is. Let's
talk a little bit more about your company. How did it start? I mean, who started it, and what gave them the idea to say, you know what, I'm going to start a fruit packing company. That's what I'm going to do.
And actually, that's kind of how it was started. It was started in 1960 by my father, David, and my uncle, Jim Simonian. And they were young. They were kids. My dad was 13, and my uncle was 16.
Wow.
Yeah. And my grandfather farmed raisins. So we had a raisin vineyard. And they had some neighbors that had some plums, and they were just kind of said, hey, why don't you guys pack these plums for us and do that? So they did. They started packing as kids, and they would pack them right on our ranch in Manning Avenue, and they would take them to the cold storage in Exeter, and they did that for 10, 15 years in the country. It was quite the deal back in those days.
Interesting. So tell us a little bit more about the difference. So when I say farmer, is there a difference between a farmer and a packer and a grower, or are they interchangeable? Because, sometimes I ask people and they say, well, we pack fruit.
Yeah.
Sometimes they say we grow fruit, and sometimes they say we're farmers. So, I mean, are there a difference between them?
Yeah, there is slight differences. Basically, a grower and a farmer is the same thing. It's someone who produces the product. But then a packing operation, like we have, is completely different. Some companies just run a packing operation and don't grow any fruit. So yeah, there are differences.
So how do they get their product? So do they go to the farmer and say, I'll buy X amount of peaches from you?
Yeah, kind of that. Or you make an agreement to pack their whole crop. Say you had a 10-acre field, you would contract with us, say, okay, we want to pack your 10 acres, and then you would make an agreement, and you go from there. So,
I've heard that farmers and growers and fruit packers, they get up early in the morning before the sun, and sometimes, from my friends, I've heard that it's normal for them to get up at 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning. Any truth to that, and why so early?
Well, yeah, there is truth to that, but of course, some like to exaggerate that. Oh, I'm up at 3 a.m. every morning, and I go to bed at midnight, and you get people that exaggerate, but they do. They are up early because typically the work starts when the first daylight breaks. So say it could be 5:30, 6:30, depending on the time of the year. So they are up early.
We've seen some heat. It's been 101, 102, 110. The weather has been hot. Now, for you in this business, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, it's to be expected. I mean, if it's excessive heat, 108, 110, well, that's when it can get dangerous. But, I mean, in the area we're at, I mean, we're used to the 100-degree weather, and, I mean, we plan for it. We definitely do.
The drought, how has it impacted you? I mean, are you hearing from others that it's bad? What are your thoughts on the drought?
Well, yeah, the drought is a big issue. I mean, for everyone, for the general public, for farmers. We've got a lot of media requests about the drought to kind of know our take on it, and we're doing everything we can to conserve water. A crop like almonds, for example, gets a bad break. But hey, I mean, the farmers are trying to get by with as less of water as they can to produce a crop. I mean, because ultimately, I mean, we're trying to feed people. This is what we're trying to do. So we're just not excessively wasting water.
There was in the media sometimes, or some people out there will say that the farmers, they're rich, they're wealthy, all they're doing is making money. I mean, are all farmers rich?
Well, hey, I would like to say yes, but hey, it's like any other business. I mean, we're here to make money. I mean, obviously, but at the same time, I mean, we want to grow our business. There's a lot of families we support. We're in a small community, and to see all the children and the adults that work for us and that give back to the community and live in the community we work in, I mean, it's important to us. So, a lot of farmers have been successful. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But, that's just a stereotype, I would say, all of them being rich.
And you're in Fowler, so talk about, I mean, there have been times, I know, in your company and in your life where you had the opportunity to move out of Fowler. But, every time I talk to you, and for the record, we went to school together, and we've seen each other out in the community multiple times. You're proud of Fowler, boy. You're proud of Fowler. So, I mean, why stay in Fowler?
Hey, Fowler's the greatest. It's a small town. Everybody knows your name. They know the gossip. They know the dirt. But it's a great town. It's a farming community of 5,000 people. My family has roots there, and I've lived there my whole life. So if I'm fortunate, I hope to be there the rest of it.
Where is your company located? I mean, let's say people watching this program want to go to Simonian Fruit Company. How do they get there?
Well, actually, we're very conveniently located. We're right off the 99 highway, so we're about 7 miles from the Fresno city limits, and you can either get off on Adams Avenue or Merced Street exit, and we're just on 7th and Adams, so it's very convenient from the freeway.
How old, and I've got this peach in my hand. How old is this actual peach? And for our audience members watching, you can see that it's a nice looking peach. How old is this peach? Walk us through the life of this product.
Well, these were picked this morning. So, typically what happens is the trees, they bloom in February and March, and they set little pieces of fruit, and the fruit continues to grow, and then we'll thin some of the other immature pieces off the tree, and we'll leave maybe several hundred pieces per tree. So then there's different varieties. Basically every 2 weeks throughout the season, a different variety will ripen. So this particular variety, the July Flame, is ripe around this time, about the middle to the end of June. And so, yeah, this was just harvested this morning.
Who buys this? I mean, you're talking of acres and acres and acres and hundreds, if not thousands, of tens of thousands of peaches and other tree fruit and products. Who consumes this stuff? I mean, a lot of times people will drive by and they'll see, the farm being picked and packaged, but they don't necessarily know who buys this. Where do you sell it?
That's one of the amazing things. These go everywhere. They go all over the world, throughout the U.S. Some are exported overseas. So, we'll sell them to anyone that wants to buy them, basically. But it's amazing. And even the fruit that doesn't get packed goes to processors. It'll go to, say, Del Monte. It'll go to Wawona. It'll go to Dole. And they may freeze them. They may make juice. They may make baby food. I mean, it's really amazing where it all goes.
It sounds like there's several pieces to this. I mean, it's not just plant a seed, water it, it grows, you pick it and you eat it. I mean, it sounds like there's a first batch, a second batch, then there's a batch that goes to get processed. I mean, do people really know what's involved in this business?
They don't, no. No, and it's not easy. I mean, I'm not saying, I mean, it could be worse, but it's not easy. There's a lot of hard work, a lot of sweat involved. There definitely is.
How do you prepare for a bad year? I mean, look, let's be honest. You might have a year where peaches are the best thing and everybody's eating them, and then there may be a time where people will say, oh, peaches, a report might come out that says
Yeah.
peaches are not good for you. They're high in sugar or whatever, and I'm just making that up because I haven't done my studies on it. But how do you prepare for that? I mean, do you expect that there'll be good and bad years?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely in farming, it's to be expected. You just hope for more good than bad. One other thing we try and do is we try and be flexible. Like I talked about having the Del Monte and the Wawonas and those type of peoples available. So like right now, say if the peaches ripen too quickly and they get soft, then maybe we send more to the processor than the fresh market. So you have to have a little bit of flexibility involved.
If you had a magic wand, so on this show, many people have an opportunity to have a magic wand. If you had a magic wand, what would you wish for?
Well, first thing would be I would get a raise. That would be the first thing. But gosh, you know, I wish for a lot of things. But as pertains to the fruit business, I mean, we would want to grow a great crop, a great eating peach that everyone enjoys, and be able to ship them all over the world for people to enjoy, and for them to come back and say, hey, we want those Simonian peaches. That would be the perfect world.
Where is the biggest place this goes? I mean, around the world, not locally, but which country do you sell the most product to?
The U.S., of course. Yeah, the U.S. Then next to it on stone fruit would be Canada and Mexico, because this type of fruit is very perishable, so it stays pretty close. Like stuff that is sent to Australia goes by plane, and it gets there in 2 days. But some of our other crops, like pomegranates that we export a lot of, they'll go by sea. So say we'll load an ocean container of pomegranates in L.A., and 30 days later it'll arrive in Australia, because the fruit's a little bit more hardy. It ships a little better than this stuff does.
How do you feel? I mean, and I'm asking you because I know that, you know, you love what you do. How do you feel when you hear in Australia or in Canada, someone picks up this and says, I'm eating a Simonian Fruit Company peach?
It feels pretty good, actually. It makes all the hard work feel like it's worth it.
What do you, I mean, talk about competition. I mean, you know, a lot of times when we're talking, we hear China come in.
Mm-hmm.
We hear other countries come in that, product is coming from there to here, and it's going to flood the market, and it's going to lower prices. Is there truth to that, and how tough is it right now?
Yeah, there's some truth to that. I mean, a lot of the products we're dealing with are fresh products, so that's not as much of an issue due to the perishability. But say some of the dried crops like raisins that we do, you know, they compete with some of the world markets, and then we grow some wine grapes, so the wine competes with the world markets as well. But as far as the fresh fruit goes, it's not as much of an issue as opposed to some of these other products.
Talk about quality. If I have a product from the Fresno area, the valley, and I taste it, and then I buy something much cheaper that comes from, let's say, China or wherever, what is the quality?
Well, first of all, the quality always has to be number one. I mean, that's the key with any product. And I mean, as you can see here, you're going to get a nice, fresh, juicy, ripe piece of fruit. You know, a lot of times if you do see a product from China that has made it here this far, usually it's an older product because of the time it gets here. It's anywhere from a 2.5 to maybe a 3-week trip from China for it to get here by sea. So any type of product like that is typically not as fresh as this product here.
Are we still, we meaning the Valley or Fresno County actually, are we still producing stuff that's going around the world, and are we still one of the top producers? Because, you know, sometimes you read things to say, oh, industry takes a hit, or oh, raisin market is soft, or almond market is soft, and then you hear something else say, you know, foreign raisins are more expensive or whatever. Are we still producing a lot?
We are, yeah, very much. You know, the California economy was very strong, and the ag industry is as well. A lot of what's taking place now is they're just switching to different crops. Like in my neck of the woods, there's a lot of raisin grapes, and a lot of them are being pulled out and put into almonds. So, you know, they're still farming, it's just being shifted to other products.
Now, I'm talking generally now. Let's talk about the Simonian family, because, you know, your sister's involved in the business, you're involved in the business, your dad is involved. I mean, your whole family is involved. So when you were younger, was this kind of like something that your parents said you're running with the company in the future, or did you kind of grow to love it?
You know, they never told me that you need to work in the family business, not once, never did. But that's all I ever wanted to do. I mean, when I was a little kid, all I wanted to do was work with my dad. You know, it's kind of a special thing, and it's something I really enjoy.
Talk about the challenges. I mean, we've talked a little bit about foreign competition. We've talked about the drought, but there's got to be more. I mean, actually, today I read a report saying that some pest has come into the area, and now there's like some reports that have been done and some precautions are being taken. But is that really a challenge? I mean, let's say a pest comes from somewhere. Could it threaten your product?
Yeah, yeah. A few years ago, we were hit with this European grapevine moth.
I remember that.
And our facility was in the quarantine area. It was I don't know how big of a quarantine area, but so we weren't able to export our fruit. It really limited us. So these pest issues are real, but there's a lot of different issues we face. There is.
Talk about the challenges. I mean, let's say someone has 100 acres, or you know what, let's make it smaller. Someone has 20 acres and a house on the 20 acres, and they say, you know what, I'm going to get in the farming business, and I'm going to invest everything I have to plant some trees. Is it as easy as that?
Yeah, if you have money, it is. Yeah, it is. I mean, maybe not the best idea, but I mean, you should probably have a game plan. I mean, depending on what type of crop, you should probably know where you're going to sell it to, know where your money or your finances is going to come from. I mean, yeah, definitely.
I've watched your company a couple of times. I've visited you, and you know, a couple of times you've donated to nonprofits. So thank you very much for doing that. But I mean, it's not so much just grow the fruit and sell it. It sounds like you have a business plan in place. I mean, talk about that aspect of this business. There's a whole other area where it's business plans and knowing who to market to and going after and getting, you know, your product out there. Challenging work?
Very much, yeah. It's a very competitive industry. I mean, like most industries are, it's very competitive. We always have to stay on top of it, the latest technology, the latest varieties, trends in packaging. It's difficult. It's not easy.
I was watching something at the Tulare Farm show, and it's a mechanical thing that helps pick some tree fruit. But, you know, ever since you started till now, talk about technology. I mean, where are we going? Do you know?
Well, one of the biggest problems with these types of fruit, the tree fruits, is it's all hand labor. Where some of the nut crops where they're doing really well, it's because it's mechanized. A lot of it's mechanized. Where this, it's pruned by hand, it's thinned by hand, it's harvested by hand. So that's one of the big issues and why this is so expensive to farm these type of crops. So yeah, mechanization is going to be very important to us in the future.
One of the things we were talking about off air, which I thought was very interesting, that you know you were actually interviewed by a couple of media outlets regarding some drone stuff that's going on. So talk a little bit about that. And I understand it might be a different route than Simonian Farms, but talk about that.
Well, my grandfather started an insurance business called CD Simonian Insurance in 1951, and my younger brother currently runs that now. And so we have a lot of ag customers in the business. So one of the guys that works for us, Albert, he's real interested in these drones and remote-controlled airplanes. So we offer this service to customers. So he'll actually go out to your field and he'll map your field. He'll fly it over and he can tell you, you know, weak spots or maybe a place where you have a good crop or maybe the place where the water's not reaching. And it's pretty cool, really.
That sounds like it could help you. I mean, so walk us through the process. The airplane goes up and kind of scans your acreage?
Yeah, it's just basically it's like a remote-controlled airplane, and he'll fly it up, and it'll go over the field. It'll map the field, and he has kind of a harness right here where he can see on his iPhone exactly what you're seeing or what is being filmed, and then that logs a video, and then he can email that video to you and say, okay, Sevag, here's what you got. It looks like you have insect damage here, you got sunburn here, you maybe need fertilizer here. This is a weak spot. So it's pretty interesting.
Pretty cool. I mean, the direction that's going.
Yeah. I mean, it's part of just the technology, staying up with it.
And then in Fowler, there was a Simonian who was mayor or a city councilman or something. Any relation to you?
Yeah, I know him pretty well. Yeah, that's my Uncle Jim. So he's been a councilman for 20 years. He still currently is, and he was mayor for about 10 years. So we get kind of we have a lot of fun with him.
So if I'm driving through Fowler and I get hungry and want to eat at a delicious place, Where would you recommend? I mean, are there good restaurants?
Actually, there is, and maybe if I plug their names, I'll get free lunches for the next couple months. But yeah, there's a Kebab City. It's a Mediterranean place. There's a Fratello's, which is Italian. I ate there today for lunch. There's Popsy's, is a Mexican place. There's Elaine's Cafe. It has a world-famous hamburger. And, of course, we have McDonald's and Carl's Jr., if none of those work for you.
A lot of things happening in
yeah,
Fowler.
Yeah, a lot of things.
Going back to the ag industry, have you experienced any of your wells running dry? I mean, walk us through the feeling, you feel when you hear about that, and then what do you do about it? Because we've heard that there are the well drilling business is backed up these days.
Yeah, those guys are doing well. There's a wait, from what I understand, a 1 year to 2 year waiting line. So we've been fortunate. We haven't had that issue, but whenever you hear that, your heart really breaks. So,
are there times where you'll go out to the trees and inspect, and what are you inspecting for, or what are you looking for?
It just kind of depends on the time of year. Like if it's this time of year, we look on what does the crop look like. Is it a big crop? Is it a small crop? What's the size of the fruit? Is it sizing? Does the tree look good? Sometimes you'll go and the tree doesn't look too good. So you'll think, okay, does it need water? Does it need fertilizer? What does it need? So it kind of depends on the time of year when you go out to the field.
During downtimes, are these trees still up? I mean, are you pulling trees at all, or they stay up? And how do you take care of them, let's say in the winter when they don't produce fruit?
Yeah, well, it's a living plant. So yeah, I mean, they're breathing, they're living at all times. And in the wintertime, they're dormant, basically. So say from December to maybe late February is kind of the dormant season. And so that's when we do the pruning, which is kind of the removal of the brush of the trees. So that time, we're still maybe giving them a little water, but really no fertilizer. And we're still, of course, watching them to make sure they look okay.
In the winter, when there's freezes, or maybe not, maybe after winter, but there are times where there's freezes in Fresno County and the valley, and the news will cover an orange farmer, let's say. Freezes, do they impact you, and are they bad?
No, the freeze doesn't impact the stone fruit trees because they're dormant. And actually, it likes the cold weather. The cold weather is good.
Oh, interesting.
So the citrus guys are hating it, but we're loving it.
Talk about the different varieties of products that Simonian Fruit Company has.
Sure. Well, we have the stone fruits. We have the apricots, peaches, plums, and nectarines. And then we have a lot of grapes. We have wine grapes, raisin grapes, and table grapes. And then we have pomegranates in the fall. And also we have a small walnut field.
Talk about the jelly. One time I came to see you, and you gave me a little bit of jelly and to try. It was delicious. So what made you decide to go that route?
Well, first of all, I have to say we have the best pomegranate jelly in Fowler, first of all. So it's something that we've been doing for years. We would do it around the holiday time, and we'd give them to our friends and customers, and they would say, hey, this is the best jelly. You guys should sell this. So if you go in the store, they have grape, they have strawberry, they have raspberry, but no pomegranate. So we've kind of been experimenting with it, and we're selling in a few small stores and trade shows. Of the Fresno Food Expo, which is coming up, will be there. And so we're kind of growing it and kind of seeing where it goes.
You never know where that'll go because it's
That's
a
right.
good product. And, right now people say pomegranates are healthy for you. And you talked a little bit about that earlier on in the program. How can people come purchase product for you? So let's say that I'm going to LA, which actually is going to happen. I'm going to go to LA and I'm going to take a box of peaches with me to LA or whatever the product is. Do you sell individual boxes? I mean, are you just going for the big customer, or can someone walk into your company and purchase small boxes?
Hey, if you have cash, we'll take it from you. No, you can. We're open normal business hours, and you can either call ahead and say, hey, I'm coming through at 2 o'clock. I'd like a box of peaches or nectarines. And yeah, we'd be happy to help you, or you just show up and I'll rush across the street and get it for you. And yeah, no, we enjoy that.
For people who want to purchase products like this, I mean, talk a little bit about what they should look for. And let me make it simple, the question a little more simple. So how do I know this peach is going to be delicious? Is there like maybe the smell, or is, the feel of it? I mean, because with watermelon, apparently it makes noise when you hit it with your hand. It makes noise and you know that it's ripe.
Right. Well, the one thing with the stone fruit is definitely the aroma. If you've seen the store, if you can smell it, it smells ripe. You want it firm and not too soft. If it's real soft, it could be mushy. and of course the color. If it has a nice red or orange color, that's what you want as opposed to like a green color. That you really don't want. So those are kind of what you would look for in the store.
Your website, talk about information. How can we learn more about Simonian Fruit Company? How can we learn about you and all the stuff you're doing?
Well, hey, yeah, our website is very important. It's simonianfruit.com. And then we're big on social media these days, right? So we have a Facebook, we have a Twitter, we have a LinkedIn, we have all that stuff. So all those areas you can find more information.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about is Simcoe. I've seen Simcoe before, and I don't know what it means. What is Simcoe?
Simcoe is our label.
Okay.
Basically, it means a Simonian company. So that's our label.
Talk a little bit more now just about other things in the industry that people may not know about. I mean, we talked about challenges, but briefly, real fast, because we're running out of time. People may not know what about the farming industry, and you fill in the blank.
Well, the big hot button issue right now is the food safety. Last year there was kind of that scare with some stone fruit, and boy, we've really focused on it. I mean, we have 1 or 2 meetings a week, and I've never devoted so much time in my life to different food safety stuff. So I mean, that's a big thing. I mean, we're really watching this stuff closely to make sure you get a good, clean piece, a safe piece of fruit.
So these products are all are tested, and you know they pass the test.
We have third parties. We have in-house. I mean, it's unbelievable, really.
Well, Jeff, we're out of time this week. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me, Sevag. I appreciate it.
That's all for this edition of San Joaquin Spotlight. To the volunteer crew that made this production and every production possible, thank you. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you to Jeff Simonian, Simonian Fruit Company, for being here today, educating us about the products that their company has and a little bit more about the farming and ag industry. Thank you to our audience members listening to the broadcast on KFSR 90.7 FM and to those watching on CMAC television. Hope you enjoyed the show this week. Tune in next week for a new edition.